welcome to HITC Sport. I am the Irish guy and prepare to be disappointed when you open your presents on Christmas Day to find that your granny has hand wrapped you a bag of her own stool. But in that vein, let's take a look at every Premier League club's most disappointing player this season. When you factor in the hype, what was expected of them, let's just see, who has let you down? Right, let's go. Arsenal, Nicolas Pepe. Listen, I'm not saying that expectations were through the roof for Nicolas Pepe this season. I'm sure there was still a good portion of Arsenal fans in the summer who probably still thought he was just some overpriced turkey. But still, let's not forget, he actually scored 16 goals for Arsenal last season. Not bad for someone who everyone already accepted was just a second coming of Solomon Kalou, somebody with the end product of a slice of cheese. But lads, he finished last season better than any other footballer in the Premier League, scoring 2 goals at Sellers Park and then another 2 goals at home to Brighton. He scored 5 goals in his last 3 games of the season. Last May, Pepe was showing world-class form. He had Arsenal fans drooling out of the corner of their mouth as if they just stumbled upon a double bacon cheeseburger. But as he kicked on, he started 5 Premier League matches, mostly stumbled about like Donkey from Shrek. And guess what? Has been given just 12 minutes of Premier League football since mid-October. He's failed to make it off the bench 9 times. Clearly Arteta thinks that he's just some fat traffic cone. I mean, how frustrating. Right now he's utterly chewing lower league defenses to shreds in the EFL Cup, but in the Premier League, about as threatening as a cat's meow. Aston Villa, Danny Ings. Okay, I am tempted to pick Leon Bailey here, an exciting arrival from Bayer Leverkusen, but who clearly his hamstrings made of pizza. But I'm sorry, there was even more hype surrounding Danny Ings. Low-key moved Aston Villa. Finally, Villa had acquired a 20-goal-a-season striker, and for just £25 million. I mean, let's not forget, yes, he came from Southampton, but apparently both Manchester clubs were sniffing around this man. I mean, Pep Guardiola was probably trying to text him in the bath, maybe send him a photo of his wrinkled scrotum, anything to get him to come to the Etihad. So what an exciting signing to take Villa to the next level, right?
Finally moving like a big club!
Nah, instead he's turned out to be the modern day Darren Bent. I mean, nobody wants to admit it yet, but this man's face is the epitome of disappointment. The worst thing is, he started well. He scored in his first 2 matches, including a bicycle kick against Newcastle. But all that did was raise expectations, hinting that he might actually challenge for the Golden Boot. Nah, he's scored once since August in a defeat to Wolves, and once again showing that his limbs are about as sturdy as any of the cast members in Chicken Run. Honestly, he is like a walking snowman. Buttering a slice of toast would probably cause him to snap a hamstring. If you told Villa that he'd have 3 goals by Christmas and would mostly be rotting on Stevie G's bench as they lay 10th in the league, they'd be so underwhelmed they might actually cough up their teeth. Brentford, Ethan Pinnock. So here we've got Ethan Pinnock, some 20-year-old centre back who used to play for Forest Green Rovers. Now listen, he hasn't been terrible, but I remember watching him score in that dramatic 3-3 draw with Liverpool and thinking that this man could actually be one of the surprise centre backs in the Premier League this season. But since then, he's just been involved in defeat after defeat. I don't know, it's harsh, but to me, he looks like a bit of a weak link. Brighton, Tariq Lamptey. Listen, Tariq Lamptey hasn't been a massive disappointment, but last season he looked like arguably the most exciting wing back outside the top 6. But this season, the former Chelsea kid has injuries, and so he sat out Brighton's early season good form, and he's since played 9 times, starting just 5. Oh no, he hasn't won a single match yet. I'm sorry, but this kid was linked to the move to Arsenal last season, and in the first half of the last campaign, the fans were salivating over him as if he was made of steak. But he hasn't actually won a game of football since November 2020. Even more scary, the supposedly world-class right back in waiting has never won a game of football for Brighton in their home stadium. Christ above. Burnley, Chris Wood. If there's one thing Burnley can count on, it's Chris Wood scoring double digits to keep them in the Premier League. Honestly, in his first 4 full seasons in a Burnley shirt, he has hit double digits every single time, despite living off scraps. It's amazing. His goal-scoring antics have actually defied physics. I mean, it's like someone who spends every single day eating 4 cheeseburgers for breakfast, 2 tubs of ice cream for lunch, and yet still having the 6-pack of Peter Andre. It doesn't make sense. Chris Wood shouldn't have been able to score this many goals in such a Neanderthal Stoke-esque setup. But so far, Wood, this former Burnley goal machine, is now stuck on 3 goals, and he's mostly resembled an immobile bag of sand, just some New Zealand Pop-Tart growing stale up front. Considering this man scored a first half hat-trick against Wolves in April, then this is pretty poor. Chelsea, Romelu Lukaku. There's a few Chelsea players I could pick, but I'm gonna go with Romelu Lukaku. I mean, do you remember the utter hype train when Chelsea paid £100 million to take him back from Inter Milan? Oh, finally he was the missing piece in the jigsaw, right? A Premier League proven world-class superstar who'd break the Chelsea striker curse to help them dominate English football, right? Oh, and reclaim the Champions League. And him scoring on his debut against Arsenal didn't exactly dampen the expectations or comparisons to Drogba, but since then, Yeah, he cracked in a double against Aston Villa at home. Although, to be fair, Jed Steer was in goal. And he's got the reflexes of a beanbag. I know Lukaku has had his injuries and illness, but still, his injury only kept him out of 4 games. One of which was a goddamn 7-0 win, so clearly they didn't need him then. He's only scored against 3 football teams this season. And it's already 12 goals behind Mo Salah in the Golden Boot race. So anyone who put any money on Lukaku to win the Golden Boot, by Christmas, you can kiss that tenner goodbye. Price above, he's been outscored by Timo Pukki and Josh King. Chelsea fans don't want to admit it yet, but so far, it's been underwhelming. Crystal Palace, Alton Edouard. Okay, I'm going to be the one to say it. I'm disappointed at Alton Edouard. This was an ambitious signing, snapping him up from Celtic in a £20 million deal. I thought finally Crystal Palace has stumbled upon a top-flight goal machine. And so did you, don't dare deny it. The man scored 2 goals in his debut against Tottenham, and he was only on the pitch for 6 minutes. I'm guessing there was a spike of gullible couch potatoes, instantly rushing to stick him in their fancy league team. But he hasn't really done much since. Yeah, sure, he scored in a 2-2 draw at the Emirates Stadium, but that's about it. First of all, still he scored as many goals for Celtic as he had Palace this season, and he left Scotland in the goddamn summer. I don't know, the fact he hasn't nailed down a guaranteed starting role yet, the fact he's looking like a profligate mini role in front of goal, honestly, I expected more. Everton Richarlison. Last season, Carlo Ancelotti challenged Richarlison to score 30 goals a season. I mean, don't forget, he was a disappointment last season, scoring just 7, but at least Dominic Calvert-Lewin was there to take the goal-scoring pressure off him. But no, Calvert-Lewin is injured, instead spending his time just modelling clothes that honestly make him look like someone's sister. But yeah, Richarlison's lack of goal threat is being exposed this season. I mean, he began the season well, scoring and assisting in a 3-1 home win over Southampton in August, but since then he's only scored twice and registering just 1 assist. Yeah, he suffered with injuries and sulked when dragged off by Rafa Benitez, but for a Brazilian superstar, this isn't good. Leeds Jack Harrison. I remember last season when it was a toss-up between whether you would pick Jack Harrison or Rafinha in fantasy football. I mean, while alone for Man City last season, Harrison was superb. 8 goals and 8 assists for Leeds last season. The man was one of the most effective midfielders in the Premier League. I mean, compare those numbers to Rafinha's 8 goals and 11 assists last season, and yeah, they were mostly neck and neck. But this season, Harrison has been blown out of the water. A bit like how 2 years ago, a fight between Jake Paul and KSI would have been a close one, and it would have been, you know, fun to watch. But now, you'd actually be watching a BBC breakfast pop singer having his skull crack like an Easter egg in the first round. Honestly, Rafinha is on a different level now. 8 goals already, and let's not forget Harrison. He's not some feeble championship standard potato. No, don't forget, he has played in the same midfield as Frank Lampard and Andrea Pirlo, and yet he's still yet to score a Premier League goal this term, and has just 1 assist, setting up Daniel James at Tottenham spaceship above ground. Honestly, this man has had no impact on that Leeds left wing, and he was dropped after resembling a headless chicken in that 7-0 loss against his former club. Oh, it's just been really dull. I feel for anyone who picked him out of Rafinha in fantasy football in August, because honestly, right now you're probably smacking your head off the oven door. Leicester Kagla Soyuncu. I remember the days when Kagla Soyuncu was outperforming Harry Maguire and being linked with an £80 million move to Man City. But this season, yeah, he's been an ever-present in the Leicester defence, but the Turkish centre-back is now about as reliable as a homemade pregnancy made out of chocolate. Sure, he scored in a 4-2 home winner for Man United, but I'm sorry, he's played 25 times this season, and he's kept just 2 clean sheets. Christ, you'd swear you're watching Ozan Kabak, just poor. Liverpool Iram Konate. It's so hard to find a footballer who is underwhelmed in a Liverpool shirt this season. They've all been fantastic. So, I don't know, let's say Konate for the £34 million price tag, I guess. He's rotted on the bench 17 times already. He probably feels like sneezing blood out his face, but again, whenever he's played in the heart of Liverpool's defence, he's done really well, so I feel a bit dirty for picking this, but again, I suppose 17 times on the bench, bit underwhelming. Man City Jack Grealish. Okay, you might all be surprised by Jack Grealish's lack of end product, but I'm sorry, I saw this coming. No football club or company on the planet should ever be paying Aston Villa £100 million for anything. Trust me, I promise you, Villa do not have anything that's worth that sort of money. I mean, unless you're trying to buy the entire club, then chuck that paycheck in the bin. For the same reason that bringing a check worth £10,000 into Costa Coffee is a waste of time. I mean, unless you're planning to buy 6 years worth of croissants, then I think you'll be okay. Again, Grealish is a man who's openly admitted that he watches videos of Kevin De Bruyne. Not as a child, now. That's why he's too afraid to ask for the goddamn ball. He's starstruck. I mean, and it's almost the ego of Pep Guardiola which keeps picking him, determined not to be proven wrong. Christ above, he's had 20 chances in a Man City shirt, and on average he is registering a goal every 5 games. And the games where he did score those 3 goals were matches where the team scored 5, 6 and 7. So clearly his goals mattered about as much as anything Bryce Hall ever says or does. And to look at him, this guy, he just resembles someone who's auditioning to play Captain Jack Sparrow in the Christmas Panto. Just some sweaty, greasy butterball with the end product of a malnourished first goldfish. And he cost £100 million, a Floyd Mayweather paycheck? What? Man United, Jadon Sancho. Yeah, I did an entire video where I predicted that Jadon Sancho would be an utter superstar signing. I mean, come on, Man United have chased this boy for years. Only 18 months ago, the fans were trying to convince themselves that yes, he would be a £100 million bargain buy. I mean, there's a young English talent who scored 50 goals for Borussia Dortmund. Oh yeah, I weighed in with 88 assists. That is unheard of. He's a generational talent, ready to rip Old Trafford apart with his bare teeth, right? Well, no, 2 goals and 0 assists by Christmas. Come on, even Daniel James began his Manchester United career more impressively than that, and he came from Swansea. That is Sammy Amiobi type stats. Yeah, I know he kicked on under Michael Carrick, scoring twice in a week, but since then, it's just been back to being another ineffective meatball under Ralph Rangnick. Just not good so far. Newcastle, Joe Willock. What has happened to Joe Willock? Just 6 months ago, he scored in 7 consecutive games for Newcastle, and he's not even a striker. What midfielder on planet Earth is able to score 7 goals in a row for some cottage pie team run by Steve Bruce? Steve Bruce is a man who's used to picking the likes of Robbie Savage and Tom Huddlestone in his midfield. So 7 goals in a row suddenly. He was being tipped for an outside shot at making England's Euro 2020 squad. But now, this season, Everton sealing a £20 million permanent move. He no longer needs to impress Arsenal scouts, and instead just plays like the English Jeff Hendrick. Let's not forget, this is a boy who in total scored 11 goals last season. But so far, he's shown the goal scoring ability of a wet bin bag. He's played 17 times, clearly Eddie Howe doesn't fancy him. And never mind the goals, he's only been on the winning side once. And the thing, the ability is there. There was no hunger or appetite to continue that goal scoring run. He didn't care about breaking Alan Shearer's record. No, the man just looks miserable that he's forced to leave his boyhood club. And yeah, he showed the midfield presence of a crumbled pillowcase. No hunger, no desire. Doesn't want to be there. Kennedy Part 2. Norwich, Todd Cantwell. I don't understand what's going on. 2 years ago, yes, Norwich City were a crumpled mess of a Premier League football team. But at least Todd Cantwell was shining through, netting 7 goals, being linked with major clubs, and getting Twitter shoutouts from Thierry Henry. You would think he would return to this league with a vengeance, provide that creative spark and demand that big money move to a top 6 club. Well, he played the first 5 games of the season, helping the club achieve an aggregate score of 13 goals to 2. Well, that's a great start. Clearly then he must have sneezed in the coffee of Daniel Farke, because he failed to make the matchday squad for 2 months. And even under Dean Smith, he's only started twice. And again, it's mostly back to warming the bench. And this is how I know that things are massively wrong. Only 4 months ago, Dean Smith was preparing to place Jack Grealish with a £40 million move for Todd Cantwell. He wanted to bring both him and Emi Buendia from Norwich. But now, he's decided to put Cantwell back on the bench, so something is seriously wrong. I guess maybe he is a championship player after all. Southampton, Adam Armstrong. If only Southampton had listened to me. Now, I'm not saying that buying from the championship is like doing your food shopping out of a toilet bin. I'm not saying that. But some players you can just smell are made for the championship. I knew that Adam Armstrong was just another Jordan Rhodes. I mean, come on. He was a championship goal machine for Blackburn, but this is the Premier League. Does the name Adam Armstrong really fill you with fear? Sounds like someone who should be selling potatoes out of a caravan on the side of the road. Sure, he scored a goal in his debut at Goodison Park on what was a very milky afternoon, but since then, 1 goal scored against Aston Villa, and that's it. He's being outshone by an Albanian child on loan from Chelsea. Honestly, this man is drowning in the Premier League. Tottenham, Harry Kane. Well, what more needs to be said here? 2 goals. Harry Kane, 2 Premier League goals by Christmas. Is this Harry Kane or Roberto Soldado? Price Wolf, even the likes of Louis Saha look more threatening in a Spurs kit than this, and he had the mobility of a suitcase. I mean, missing the opening day of the season against Man City was unforgivable, but it's not as if this man missed the first third of the season or anything. I know, the media made it feel like he was missing for 6 months, but he was back the next week against Wolves. But the worrying thing is, let's not forget the side of Berahino. He sulked about not getting a move from West Brom to Tottenham and never recovered his form. Yeah, that was 6 years ago. I don't think he's still in a huff. I mean, he's currently 28 and failing at Sheffield Wednesday in League One. So Kane, after being denied that move to Man City, is this it? Is this the end of your career? In 2 years, are we going to see you stuffed in some Belgian village? Don't turn into the next side of Berahino. What for Cucho Hernandez? Okay, expectations weren't that high about Cucho Hernandez. The Colombian never really did much out on loan, but when he curled in the winning goal against Aston Villa in the opening day of the season, I guarantee you there were some Watford fans who left that stadium feeling like they just uncovered a gem. But nice. He's only scored 1 goal since then. Hasn't really done much. Mostly rotted like a dead sunflower on the wing. Just poor. West Ham, Mikel Antonio. It's very harsh to put in Mikel Antonio considering the start he had of the season. 4 goals and 3 assists in his first 4 Premier League matches. That was unreal. And since then he scored the winner against Leeds and Tottenham. Well, that is where the good run ends. In October he was rivaling for the Golden Boot. But now West Ham's record goal scorer hasn't scored in 8 consecutive games. That is a drought and a bad one. He said he wanted to win the Golden Boot in September. Well, now you're 9 goals behind Salah and doing a wimpy podcast with Callum Wilson. It's not great. Wolves, Daniel Podence. I thought Daniel Podence was destined to become Wolves' best player. Was I the only one who saw a creative gem in there? Well, since returning from groin surgery, Bruno Lage just likes to let him warm the bench. He's only started 4 games, 0 Premier League goals. He's just some Portuguese cabbage, I guess. It's a shame. I really thought Podence was a creative spark. Anyway, that's what it is. What do you think? Alright, let me know in the comments below. Who has been your biggest letdown? Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.